I knew, the moment Melissa brought up that party, that I wasn't really welcome there. Not because anyone said so, but because there's a huge difference between being invited somewhere and being dragged along as a plus one. Daniel, you're coming with me to Julia's party on Friday. She said it while scrolling through her phone, never even looking up. What party? Her company thing, a networking event. Couples are supposed to show up together. I wanted to ask why. I wanted to tell her I'd been working late all week, that Friday was the one day I could actually just stop, but I knew that tone. It was the tone that didn't leave room for conversation. It was the tone that meant the decision was already made. Fine, I said, and that was enough for her to go back to her phone. I got home Friday earlier than expected, showered, got dressed. Melissa was standing in front of the bedroom mirror, beautiful as always, adjusting a gold earring. For just a second, while she wasn't looking at me, I watched her and tried to remember the last time we'd actually talked. Not about bills, schedules, or plans. A real conversation, the kind that makes you laugh in the dark before falling asleep. I couldn't remember. The party was at a rented venue downtown, the kind with amber lighting and music loud enough to make any conversation feel like work. By the time we walked in, Melissa had already found her crew. 4 women who hugged like they hadn't seen each other in months, even though I knew they'd had lunch together on Tuesday. I was just standing there, next to her, smiling. "Melissa, you brought your husband," one of them said, glancing at me briefly, the way you notice an insignificant detail in a painting. I did. She laughed. "He needed to get off the couch for once." The women laughed. I laughed too. Because when you don't know what else to do with the hurt, sometimes the easiest thing is to pretend it's a joke. The night went on like that. Every time I tried to join a conversation, there was a comment waiting for me. Small, precise, unnecessary. Melissa had a gift for that. She knew how to cut someone down gently, like it was affection, like it was just teasing. Until, at some point, one of her friends asked, "Daniel, what do you do in your free time?" I opened my mouth. "Oh, Daniel?" Melissa jumped in, smiling. "He basically works and sleeps. His personality died at 30. The whole table burst out laughing, and I just stood there, glass in hand, with a smile plastered on my face that wasn't mine, feeling something cold settle in my chest. Not anger, not yet. Something quieter, something that felt like recognition. This is wrong. This is really wrong, but I didn't say a word. My lesson for you. Lesson 1. Silence isn't always peace. Sometimes the silence we choose to keep the peace is actually how we learn to abandon ourselves. When someone turns your pain into a running joke and you keep on smiling, you're not being strong. You're making yourself invisible. The first step toward changing anything is having the courage to acknowledge, this isn't okay. There's a limit to how long a person can keep smiling at nothing. Mine hit around 10 o'clock. I grabbed a drink from the bar, crossed the main room without saying a word to anyone, and found my way to the back patio, an open area with a few wooden chairs and potted plants that hadn't been watered in a while. Away from the music, away from the laughter, away from the version of me that kept smiling like everything was fine. I sat down. I breathed. The sky was clear, that deep blue that only shows up when the city stops insisting on itself for a few minutes. I was staring up at it when I heard footsteps on the grass. "You know, you seem like the only real person at this party." I looked up. A woman I'd never seen before was walking over with a glass of wine, relaxed, smiling without trying. She sat down in the chair next to me like she'd known me for years. I laughed, a little caught off guard. "Are you messing with me?" "No." She tilted her head slightly. "Everyone in there is busy trying to look like something. You're out here just trying to survive. I respect that. I don't know why, but that completely disarmed me." We talked. She asked my name, what I did, what I was into. And when I answered, she actually listened. No glancing at her phone, no cutting me off, No turning what I said into a segue about herself. She was present. I told her I worked in civil engineering, that I liked to cook on weekends, especially pasta, because there was something almost meditative about making dough from scratch, that I hadn't finished a book in a while, but I missed it. "You have a calm voice," she said at one point, "the kind that makes people feel heard when they talk to you." I went quiet for a second. How long had it been since anyone said something like that to me? Not a throwaway compliment, not a, "You're a good guy," said in passing. Something observed, something real. "Thank you," was all I could manage. She smiled, and we kept talking about everything and nothing with that easy kind of lightness that only happens when two people have nothing to prove to each other. It was the best half hour I'd had in a long time. My lesson for you. Lesson 2. Sometimes a stranger sees you more clearly than the people who are supposed to know you best. That's not the stranger's doing. It's a mirror. When someone on the outside can spot your worth without any effort, it's because that worth is real. The question that lingers is, why did the people closest to you stop seeing it? And, more importantly, why did you stop believing in it yourself? I saw her before I heard her. Melissa came through the back door with that walk I know well, fast, deliberate, shoulders slightly pulled back. The smile she put on when she spotted us never made it to her eyes. "Oh, there you are," she said, placing her hand on my shoulder like she was planting a flag. "I've been looking for you." She hadn't been. We both knew that. She grabbed a chair, sat herself down between us, and started talking. About the party, about her friends, about some funny thing that had happened inside. She cut in twice while the other woman was mid-sentence. She grabbed my arm for no reason. She laughed a little too loud, and I just sat there, trying to make sense of what I was watching. This was the same woman who, an hour earlier, had told a table full of people that my personality was dead. The same one who rolled her eyes when I spoke, the same one who'd spent the whole evening ignoring me like I was part of the furniture. Now she was here, present, intense, territorial, not protective of me, protective of what she considered hers. The other woman, graceful and completely unfazed, made a polite excuse and said her goodbyes shortly after. Melissa watched every step she took until she disappeared through the door. We sat in silence for a few seconds. "Who was that?" she asked, keeping her voice deliberately casual. "Someone who came to talk to me." "Huh?" She ran a hand through her hair. "She seemed pretty into it." I didn't answer, and in that silence, in that space between what she had done and what she was now trying to protect, something inside me settled. Not with anger, not with satisfaction, with a cold, quiet clarity, like still water. Melissa wasn't afraid of losing me. She was afraid of someone figuring out what she'd been throwing away. My lesson for you, Lesson 3. There's a crucial difference between being loved and being owned. Someone who loves you shows up for you when no one's watching. Someone who owns you only shows up when they feel like they're losing their grip. If the person beside you only shows jealousy, but never admiration, maybe what they're protecting isn't you. It's the hold they have over you. On the way home, we didn't say a word. Melissa was in the passenger seat staring out the window. I drove with both hands on the wheel, eyes on the road, head somewhere else entirely. I wasn't thinking about her. I wasn't angry. I was thinking about myself, about the man who had walked into that party and bowed his head at every jab. The man who had smiled while being put down. The man who had spent years convincing himself that was just how it was. That relationships were like that asking for basic respect meant starting drama. I thought about the calm voice the woman had mentioned, the way I listened to people, the pasta I made every Sunday morning while everyone else was still asleep, because there was something in that small, quiet act that made me feel whole. There was a whole person there I had just forgotten. When we got home, Melissa went straight to the bedroom. I went to the kitchen, filled a glass of water, and stood in the dark for a while. No decisions were made that night, no dramatic turning points. Real life doesn't work that way. It moves in realizations, in layers, in small truths that pile up until one day you simply can't pretend you haven't seen them. And the truth I could no longer ignore was simple. I deserved to be treated with respect, not as a reward. Not only when someone felt threatened, every single day, in public and in private, in words and in silence. And if that respect wasn't where I'd been looking for so long, maybe it was time to start looking somewhere else, starting with myself. My lesson for you. Lesson 4. The greatest danger of spending too long in an environment that cuts you down isn't what the other person does to you. It's what you start doing to yourself. You learn to shrink, to apologize for taking up space, to believe you don't deserve more than what you're getting. Healing begins when you stop reshaping who you are just to fit into the space someone else decided was yours. You are not a supporting character. You are the whole story.